Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of Talking About Stuff. My guest today is Bonnie Flemington, a well-known nutritionist in the Halton region. So I'm going to ask her to tell us a few things about her in the beginning. Hi Bonnie.
Hi Alex, thank you for having me here.
No problem, it's a pleasure.
This is a great opportunity to have a conversation. I live in the Oakville area and I practice nutrition mostly online. But before I worked in nutrition, I worked in the accounting and finance industry, and for many years, and I raised 3 children, and I really enjoy working with individuals on their health, on their diet. So this is a very rewarding change for me that I've been doing for the last 6 years.
Okay, congratulations. All right, so why did you choose nutrition as a career?
It came from actually my own health issues. So I was suffering with joint pain, burnout, fatigue, and I didn't really know where to begin. I started with medical professionals and testing, and they really didn't have anything that was wrong with me.
Okay.
So I just looked to foods and thought, well, hey, maybe some of the foods I'm eating are affecting how I'm feeling, and made a few changes, and with each change that I made, I noticed a big difference in how I felt. And it really inspired me to go back to school, to study about nutrition, so that I could help others have the same improvement in their quality of life. For instance, one of the things that I experienced was a lot of joint pain, and I was slowing down on my walks, not really able to keep up with everyone, and even limping a little bit. And so I found with my changes that in the diet, that all changed for me. And I feel so much better, and I can be active in the way that I want to be.
I see. And what is your background and training in terms of nutrition?
Absolutely. So I studied at the Institute of Holistic Nutrition here in Canada, and it was a 2-year program. And what I really enjoyed about it was that it was in person at the time before COVID, of course, when we could be in class together, and it made such a great difference that I was able to study that way. So I'm a certified nutritionist.
All right, great. And what is your nutrition philosophy, and or basically how do you eat right now?
Absolutely. Basically whole foods, I would say, is my philosophy. As little processed as possible. So I personally eat a lot of proteins, fruits and vegetables. I don't follow a specified diet. I take aspects of certain diets that I really like and make them my own. So as an example, some people follow paleo. It's one that I think is a great option. But I'm not strict with that because I add in grains every now and then and some other things that aren't specifically allowed on paleo but are still whole foods. I like some aspects of the keto diet where we keep the sugars very low and a lot of the refined carbohydrates low. But again, I don't follow a strict keto diet either. So I create my own diet. I call it the Bonnie Flemington diet for me. And I do that for my clients as well. They don't need to have a diet that looks specifically like mine or like any other of my clients. We really tailor it to what works for the individual.
All right, sounds good. And from where do you get the information about the nutrition?
Well, I learned a lot when I studied in school, of course, and got my certification. But in addition to that, I do annual continuing education. I have done a lot of work in gut health. So for the past couple of years, I've done additional practitioner training in identifying root causes, using gut health testing as an example, and really understand what's going on with the gut microbiome, how that connects with people's symptoms, and what we can do about it.
I see. All right, thank you. All right, Bonnie, so how do you keep people accountable?
Well, I offer my sessions in a nutrition coaching package, for instance. So for those that want accountability, I provide packages where we can meet weekly. People can connect with me. I use an online electronic health record system that's all secure with information, and we can have a messaging. We can message with each other within there so that the client never feels alone, never
Okay.
feels that lack of support, and I'm always there.
So they're always on track, I guess.
Absolutely, to help on track. And I do group programs as well, and some people really thrive in groups where they can hear what others are struggling with and get the support not just from myself but from other group program members.
I see.
Yeah.
And what tools or resources do you provide in your programs?
Well, I have a lot of handouts that I've developed over the years that address many pieces of information that people struggle with, so that they know the whys behind some of the things they need to be doing. Also meal plans, of course, recipes, and even some worksheets. So sometimes journaling some things out and working things through things is helpful. So these are all different types of resources that I provide.
I see. Sounds good. And can you personalize, let's say, my plan for my specific goals, taste, and also lifestyle? You mentioned about this earlier, but how do you do it?
Absolutely. So for instance, if I'm creating a meal plan and some recommendations there, I always look to obviously sensitivities and preferences.
Allergies, probably.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And make sure that I tailor it so that it's also as close to what they potentially were eating previously, but just with some key substitutions that will support the change that they'd like to make.
I see. And how can I know about the foods that I'm intolerant to? Is there a way to find out?
There is actually. There is food sensitivity testing that can be done. As I mentioned, I do a lot of work in gut health, so I can make the connection between gut health and food sensitivities, and that's one of the best ways, really, is to test, not guess.
I see. Of course, yeah. And how can I avoid the foods that cause me to have uncomfortable symptoms?
So a lot of times people feel very overwhelmed when someone has said, oh no, you can't eat gluten anymore, or
Okay.
you're intolerant to gluten. And I sympathize with that because making change is hard. So what I have a lot of resources on substitutions so that the client doesn't feel overwhelmed by change and has a lot of other options. I really do like the focus to be on what they can have, what they're going to enjoy, and what they want to be including in their diet, and not focusing so much on what they will be avoiding.
I see. Okay, thank you very much for this great information. All right, Bonnie, so what does a healthy diet look to you?
Well, I think maybe we talked about previously, whole foods as much as possible.
Yeah.
I talk to my clients a lot about reading food labels, and of course ultimately the ideal foods won't have a food label or ingredient list that they need to read. But we do talk about reading labels so that when we need to have some kinds of support and pre-prepared things, that we're focusing on those ones that really they could otherwise make at home. They're just purchasing something pre-prepared for convenience.
I see. So on that topic, are you able to share what you have, for example, today for breakfast? Because probably people would like to know what a nutritionist is eating, right?
Absolutely. Well, I do share a lot on social media, on my Instagram, for instance, a lot about the things that I have. And so this morning, as an example, I had almond flour toast. So I either purchase or I make my own almond flour bread. So I'm avoiding the wheat. So I toast that up, and I had that with an apple. And for my protein, because I always like to make sure I get enough protein at breakfast, I have some collagen in my decaf coffee this morning.
All right, sounds delicious.
Yeah.
And healthy, obviously.
Yeah.
And how about the fish? They say fish is a very healthy animal to eat. How often do you eat fish?
Fish is incredibly healthy. There are some larger species that tend to have a lot of mercury, but for the most part, having a lot of fish in the diet is a healthy option. And I try and make sure I have fish at least twice a week, sometimes even 3 times.
Okay, thank you. And now for the last question regarding nutrition. If, let's say, someone would like to start eating healthier, what would be your best advice for them as a start point?
That's a great question, and I would say start with one thing, because to try and overhaul everything at once can feel overwhelming. And if you're feeling successful, such as if you pick one thing and you achieve that, then that's going to fuel your motivation to make some further changes down the road. So picking one thing, and some of the top things that I notice when people first come to me is drinking enough water. That would be one. Increasing the vegetable intake would be another. Those would be a couple of one or the other of those things that I would recommend starting with.
Okay, good advice. Yeah. Now, for the second part of the interview, I would like to ask you about the current situation, the COVID, the things we've been through for over a year and a half. So, how did COVID affected your personal life, and then if you can share also about your business, how it worked?
Absolutely. So, personally, it was different to have everyone at home all the time who used to go out into work or into school. But there were some nice parts of that as well. Business-wise, I have to say the first couple of months when COVID was in and nobody really knew what to expect or what we were doing, business slowed down for me. But since then, it's actually picked up even more. I think people are really focusing on their health, getting very used to accessing care in a virtual setting.
Yeah.
So all of my sessions can be done virtually on a video conference, and now most people are very comfortable with that. And it's a great way to deliver care from the comfort of your own home.
All right, sounds good. And I'm going to ask also, when all the restrictions, let's say, will be lifted, maybe next year, what's the number one thing that you want to do but you're not able to do for the past year and a half?
Well, travel is certainly something that is something I would love to do.
I see. All right. Then thank you very much, Bonnie, for being part of this podcast. Great information you shared with us. And also I'm going to put your information at the description of this video.
Fantastic.
And thank you again for participating.
Thank you for having me, Alex.
No problem. Very welcome. Bye, everyone.